Hello and welcome back to the channel to another of my interview series. Now this is going to be a little bit different from the normal stuff that I'm doing, except we're going to have a great message of hope for all my viewers. So I'm hoping you'll stay with us because today I have Katherine and Stewart, who have been interested and following metaphysics and yoga for many years. They're going to tell us a little bit about where we are in the current situation with these dark days, and then give us some hope, practical hope, that you and I can start to follow. So welcome, first of all. We have Stewart here. Hello, Stewart.
Hiya.
Nice to
Hi,
meet you.
Richard.
Thank you for coming on the show. And Katherine. Hello, Katherine.
Hi, Richard.
There we
Nice
are.
to nice to be on the show.
Thank
Hi,
you.
everybody.
It's lovely to have you. Now, you both are partners, but you just happen to be physically in two different places, which is why we've got you on different cameras. So the audience will just have to bear that in mind. So, Stewart, if we can start with you, I know you want to tell us a little bit about the reality of life and where we all are at the moment, because we are in some very dark times. I've been talking about that on the channel, and people have been writing to me. They're somewhat worried, and in some ways they have every right to be.
Yes. Well, to get back to the very basics, the way I've been taught and how I've come to realize reality is that we're living on this world and we are being given custody of this world, and it's a bit like a classroom, so that we are here to evolve ourselves until we reach a certain stage when we can leave and go to another classroom in the solar system. And what happens to us is up to us. We are left here to learn the lessons of life until we succeed in doing the right thing. It's a bit like you wouldn't expect your child to learn anything if you did their homework for them.
No.
And the best way we learn the lessons in life is by making mistakes and then getting it right. There's a lot of things. I mean, I love Ricky Gervais, and there's Stephen Fry, who and Professor Dawkins, who are adamant there is no God and all the rest of it. And I think that is the dark forces love that, because there's no rhyme nor reason to life. It's just grab what you can for yourself and sod everybody else. That is the way they'd like us to look.
Right. Okay. You've just frozen a little bit there, and we may have a bit of a dodgy connection. You're back now. So what you're saying?
Great.
So are you talking about a religious belief in what we would say a Christian God or a Muslim God or that sort of thing, or is this across the board? How could you define what you mean?
Yeah. Well, where we come from, we believe that there's many great avatars have been sent to Earth, and they all work as a team.
Right.
There is no division between them. The division comes from people taking their messages and creating division with them. So it's people on Earth who are responsible for that. And we revere all great enlightened people, whatever religion they are, because they're all basically giving the same message to different parts of the Earth at different times. It's a bit like if you got 10 blind men or 10 blindfold men trying to feel different parts of an elephant, they'd all come out with different stories.
Yes, of course.
So it's all part of the whole. That's the way we look at it. And there's just basically two things. There's good and there's evil. And what we're faced with at the moment is pure evil. And it tries to disguise itself and hoodwink us into going along with it. And many people have over the years, but bearing in mind what they really love is hatred, war, conquest, misery, and suffering. And so, who's putting their hand up for any of that?
Well, absolutely. I think people turning on their mainstream media sort of are getting this pushed down their throats left, right and centre. I mean, we see the war with Ukraine, but there's wars going on all over the world.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. The war...
And there has been, it never seems to ever stop, does it?
We never mention any of the other wars. I think it so happens that we've been at war with Russia for many years, an undeclared war. The West has been. They see Russia as a threat because they're independent and they will not kowtow, as many other countries have had to. And they can't just move the American military in and take them over. And so there was a plan hatched by the Rand Corporation a few years ago, who had a contract to work out how to deal with Russia. And this is the plan that they came up with, is what we're seeing unfolding in Ukraine. So the West is fighting to the last Ukrainian, basically.
So when you say good and evil, I mean, even if people watching this are thinking, I don't really understand this, the religious or the spiritual and that sort of thing, most people have a feel of what good is and what evil is. And sometimes, evil might just be the fact that your council tax has been increased, or it might be something a hell of a lot more sinister, people's understanding of what evil is. But the sort of evil you're talking about is a lot more sinister and darker. Am I right in thinking that? Yeah.
Well, as you rightly say, Richard, we don't like to dwell on it, but it is good. We need to identify what the problem is before we can find a solution. And basically, it has been part of what we've had to deal with in this world for a long time. And the solution to it is to be positive and to send out love and blessings into the world, which is the opposite of what they would like us to do.
So where is it coming from, this evil? I mean, is it coming from an ethereal place? Yeah.
Okay.
Just so that people have a sort of vague understanding, because some people will, they'll. I imagine that if, like myself, will be going, well, where do you mean? Is it one person? Is it an army of people, or is it outside the planet? How does it work?
When we die, we go to another realm of existence, which is in this space where we are now, but on different frequencies of manifestation. There are higher frequencies. According to our yogi master, George King, there's 6 higher frequencies. If this is frequency number 1, there's 6 higher frequencies, which get progressively more like heaven as you go up. And also there are 4 lower frequencies, which get progressively darker as you go down. And those are places where, depending on how you vibrate when you die, you go to one of these realms. Now, the bad is the very rich people have never helped anyone. The murderous dictators, they go to the lower realms. And as they have schools of learning on the higher realms, they have schools of learning on the lower realms. And they learn to hold up their rebirth, because we're all reborn into the reincarnatory cycle. We would never try to hold that up, but the dark ones do, because they realize that they would lose their dark power.
So when you say they hold up their rebirth, what do you mean by that?
They have black magical ritual. They hold up, they stop themselves being reborn into the reincarnatory cycle, because as we understand it, and most of the world believes this, that we're all part of, we have many lives. We have a life here, we have a life on the other side.
And then we come back to have a life here. And so this,
Does that make sense?
Yes. No, yeah, absolutely. And just for the sake of the audience who sometimes think that I'm just interrupting for the pure egotistical fun of it.
No.
I'm also aware that there will be people watching who perhaps this is completely new to and maybe going, well, this sounds a bit nuts.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so obviously I don't want to put them off, and I want to draw them in to understand what you think.
We realise this very much, what you're saying, Richard. And what's most important to consider is that religion, prayer, has been used to divide and to conquer, and it's also been ridiculed. So a fundamental concept of religious understanding would be prayer, which is literally just sending good energy from one person to another, which can be used for healing purposes. And it's actually very, very simple. It's literally just like water flowing through a pipe. If I think positively to you and you think positively to me, that's going to create good and positive energy. If I think negatively towards somebody, that's going to send them actually negative energy. It is that simple, and it's just a different form of energy. You could say like a different frequency of energy that we're using. Rather than pouring water through a pipe, we're sending a prayer energy from one person to another. But the dark forces absolutely do not want us to know this. They want us to be in a disheartened state. They don't want us to think that individually we can tune in to this source power, which you could say, you know, in the middle, there's like a hub of a wheel, and each of the different religions are like spokes coming out from it. They all go back to that same source.
Right.
And the source energy is the energy that we can actually all tap into. It's that simple. And because it's so simple, people want complication. In fact, the manifestation can take us into complication. And the other thing which is worth realizing is that materialism is something that we're all familiar with it. We live with it every day. But materialism is used by the dark forces to confuse us and to trap us. You know, I just recently flew to Mexico, and you have to pass through the duty-free zone, where you've got, to me it's like a kind of mad dungeon down there. You know, you get funneled through this area where you've got drink and cigarettes and perfume, and this is actually, you could say, these are all temptations to take us away from the simplicity of life. We don't need any of those things that you find in there. What we need is just, you know, good energy between people, families, you know, everybody connecting well and happily together. This is what really creates a good world.
Yes.
So the dark forces want to take our mind off that. And it's insidious. Anything which is, and as you said earlier, we can all feel when something is good or when it isn't. We all have a power of discrimination between good and evil, but that's another thing that there's a lot of confusion.
Sorry, that is I'm being invaded by a cat.
Oh, how lovely.
I think the cat wants to be part of the show. Sorry about that.
Well, we love cats. We've got 4 here. Yes. So does that explain a little more where we're coming from?
No, absolutely. And I'm sort of trying to interpret this also for people who perhaps are coming to this and thinking this just sounds like a science fiction film, like Star Wars, where you've got your Darth Vader and then you've got Luke Skywalker, and so much of books and fiction is about good versus evil, and we're quite used to the fact that at the end of the day the good wins over the evil, but I'm guessing that is not necessarily the case unless we know the sort of tools to use.
It can, and these are all allegories, you know. Star Trek, you know, the Lord of the Rings. We're like Frodo's. We have the power of Frodo to take.
Yes.
You know, and I actually think it's really important to make people enthusiastic about these hero roles, because we all are our own heroes, and we forget that. We tend to think that the heroes are just in the stories, but they're not. Yes. We are the modern day heroes, and we have the ability to, and the power and the love flowing through us to change everything. You know, we can get caught up in the spider's web as Frodo did. You know, we're like little hobbits climbing up Mount Doom at the moment, and that's how I see myself very often. But we can get there.
So when you were talking just now about the temptations of things like in the duty free,
yes,
and people can get very confused about that sort of thing of what what makes a good life, and some people think it's a 64-inch television, or
Yes.
so as you say, or a bigger car, or a more expensive car, or something like that. And yet, if you take most people, I would argue, out into the countryside on a beautiful vista, there's just something very visceral and natural and overwhelming about nature and beauty and aesthetics, which makes so much of the materialistic man-made stuff into just, you don't need it. But watching the sun come up or go down at the beginning or the end of the day is a magic that man cannot recreate. I mean, you can create it on a screen, but it doesn't have the same majesty or depth of feeling or emotion that it does when you witness it. So,
agreed.
Yeah,
that's our guide, you could say, isn't it? It shows us the simplicity and the wholeness of life. And I think that's what our yoga practice gives to us. Stuart and I have been practicing yoga for over 30 years. We're both Kundalini yoga teachers. I'm a Shivananda yoga teacher, and these practices are very simple. They teach you how to come back to yourself and to experience joy.
right.
And one of the things that we wanted to talk about, Stuart has been practicing transcendental meditation for many years, since his early 20s. And this can give you a very peaceful sense of connection. And that's really what we want to put across to people, is that everybody can have this peaceful sense of connection. And when you come back to that, you watch the sunset.
Yes.
You know where you're going. It gives you an inner guidance, so that all the temptations, you can discriminate and you can find a path. And the transcendental meditation, the Maharishi University, they study the effects of people meditating. So, for example, 2% of people meditating in LA has been proven to reduce the crime rate. Stuart?
Yeah, I just want to say it's actually 1%.
Oh, 1%.
It's even 100% better than you just said.
That is incredible. That's absolutely incredible. I've got to go and let the cat out the room. So
Sure.
sorry about that, but I should do that in a second. But so I keep getting letters from people who are fearful. And you've told me that the way to do that is to look on the bright side, as it were, like in the song, always look on the bright side of life.
Absolutely.
Tell us about those tools and how meditation then can work for people whilst I just quickly let the cat out.
Okay, well, as Katherine was saying, the Maharishi people have been studying the effects of the meditation for many years, and they discovered, through measuring all the parameters that you can see in life, that when 1% of people do ordinary, just everyday
meditation.
Yeah, sorry about the frozen signal there.
Okay, was I not carrying on?
You'd started to meditate already.
Okay.
We'd seen you go into Zen at that moment.
Yeah. Well, when 1% of the population meditating changed everything from negative to positive, and there's a great little story I read in the newspaper, the Sun newspaper actually, where the reporter was saying that in Skelmersdale, the police had said that the crime rate had gone down 37% and the detection rate had gone up 47%. So
wow.
the reporter rang up the chief constable and asked him what was going on. And he said, it's the meditation people down the road.
The police said that.
The police said that. I'll tell you why, Richard, because they know about this effect. They call it the Maharishi effect. And before this was lots of teachers getting together who do advanced practices. They're called the Siddhi program. And when they come together, boy, it has a very powerful effect. And so they try to tell people about it. They told the police, right, watch what happens when we get together down the road at the TM centre and start doing our practices. And they do things like yogic flying. Have you heard of that?
I've heard of it, but I'm not quite sure. Is that levitation or?
Yeah, it's the sort of early stages. They're bouncing around, up and down and stuff. I mean, yeah. So that's the profound effect it has. So anything that's positive is good for us. It's good for our neighbourhood, our family. Random acts of kindness.
Random, yes. Now, just before you go on,
Yes.
I'm going to ask you a question here. I mean, one thing that I remember reading in one of these sort of self-help books or positive mental attitude books when I was much, much younger, and I've always sort of lived a little bit by these things, and it was just simply saying, if you smile at people, they smile back. And if you don't smile, you may not even have any eye connection or anything. But there's something in it. It lifts your spirit if somebody then smiles back. And you've probably lifted their spirit because you smiled at them out of the blue. And as long as you're not sort of smiling in some rather horrible way, and hello, that's demented way, exactly. As long as it's just like, oh, hello, it's like, happy to be alive. It's a lovely day. So much can be expressed in a smile. So what I'm trying to say is that I think a lot of people will understand what you're saying on a very elementary level, that they would have experienced it. Yeah.
But the more love,
that's right. Yeah.
The more blessings we send out into the world, the better the world's going to be. It's like changing the world with every smile.
Yes.
There's been poems written about it, hasn't there?
Well, I know somebody said to me one was, smile a while, and while you smile, another smiles, and soon there's miles and miles of smiles, and life's worthwhile because you smiled.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, you can't say better than that.
No.
And also, we believe that we have the power inside us, and now the dark forces would like us not to know this. They've done their best to turn us away from it, turn us into materialism. And by the way, material things are great as long as we put them in their correct position. I mean, and from the spiritual point of view, there's nothing wrong with being rich. It's a fantastic thing to be rich as long as you do the right thing with what you're given. And when you do, then in your next life, you are given more to do more good things with it. So there's not a problem there with abundance. And there should be a world of abundance. It's the dark forces that try to take it away.
Well, we know, that the dark forces are trying to sort of contain people within 15-minute lockdown cities. They're trying to govern our bank. They want us to be accountable all the time. And there's a lot of fear coming through. So, and who wants that?
Absolutely.
That's right.
I mean, when the whole thing started, to be honest, we realised where the problem lay, because we've been taught about the dark forces for a long time. But it did shock us that they were openly making these moves, and it took us a while to gain our equilibrium. In fact, March 2000, we wrote a long letter and we delivered it to the police in Devon, where we live, explaining to them what was going on. Of course, it probably didn't go down very well, them being,
rural policemen.
So, well, I can understand it. And I think we have to keep a happy sort of countenance. And the one thing the dark forces do not like, it's fun and laughter.
I've heard that, and I try to sort of, in some of my videos, and some of the most successful ones is where I've just been a bit whimsical about and taken the mickey a bit, and people say that's what you should be doing more of, rather than getting too serious and frightening.
Absolutely. I think we need to keep the fun in life, and there's a great song that we love that says it all. It's called Bing Crosby, Accentuate the Positive. Have you
Yes.
heard that one?
Yes, I have. Yeah.
Eliminate
You
the
gotta
negative.
accentuate the positive, eliminate the negative. Latch
Latch
on
on to the
to the
affirmative. Don't
affirmative.
mess with Mr. In Between.
So there we are. Welcome to the karaoke of positive thought. Which is great. So, tell me about this character, George King. I have not heard of him. He is a Western yogi master. Is that correct?
That's right. Yes. So George King is unusual because a lot of people think of yoga, they think of the East. But he was actually somebody who was born in this country. And what makes a yogi master is worth just looking into, because we could follow anyone, but we actually have a specific reason for being followers of this particular master, and we do also follow other masters. It's because he's what's called a self-realized master. Now, in yoga is very scientific, and that's another thing which the dark forces don't want you to know. They want you to think that what we're saying is complete woo-woo.
Yes.
But yoga is actually a science. There's a science of yoga. So George King practiced yoga for an average of 8 to 10 hours a day.
Blimey.
For 10 years. 8 to 10 hours a day. So at the beginning we talked about transcendental meditation. I practice that only 20 minutes twice daily. That's tiny compared to what he did. And he also had a day job. He was a taxi driver and worked in security. So most of this practice he would have done at night. And talking about levitation, in fact, his landlady in London said that he pointed out that his hair oil was on the ceiling of the room that he was renting from her. And she was amazed by this. And actually it was because he prayed so much that he levitated. So this is the kind of power that can happen. So just again, coming back very scientifically, the power, a self-realized master, having done all these practices, lots of meditation, physical yoga postures. I showed you this one. This is the Siddhi posture.
Can you just move it? Yes, it. The other
way.
way. No, the other way.
Other way. That way.
There we go. Yeah.
Yeah. That is the posture of the Siddhis. And he was a master of many different types of yoga. And he could consciously raise the Kundalini, which is the life force. Some people call it the serpent power, and you see it on the caduceus symbol, which is the medical profession symbol. You can see the snake, and you can see the middle. You can see the middle nadi, which is the subtle nervous system, and it's like you have in acupuncture. We have many different subtle. A subtle nervous system which runs throughout the body, which the Chinese traditional medicine practitioners use with acupuncture. And the Kundalini force comes up Sushumna Nadi, which is the one that goes all the way up the spine. And you see this in everywhere. Like when you see the Buddha, you see a lovely 1,000-petal lotus on top of his head. That is to symbolize that he's an enlightened master and that he can raise this power. And you also have the petals of the different chakras. And this is in a lot of popular art. You see this. So George King was an enlightened master, like the Buddha, like Krishna. And he has all the credentials. So that's why we follow him. And we feel very happy to have found him in our lifetime, because not everyone finds an enlightened master who understands what he does. And for anyone who thinks, again, this is a bit beyond them, there's an excellent book which is called The Autobiography of a Yogi, which explains by Yogananda all of the science of yoga, and he goes to meet many different masters, and they're all in concurrence of this how to achieve enlightenment.
How do you?
I don't know if that answers your question.
Yes, no, it does. How do you deal with people who are somewhat skeptical when you say his hair oil is on the ceiling because he has levitate? Because most people will go, okay, I can go along with this to a certain degree. I can understand how it will calm me down. I can put out positive vibes and that sort of thing. Because you kind of hear that on social networks, and people will put up their memes and things about being nice to people. But I imagine that a lot of people will start to sort of feel, there we go, we've got some a bit weirdo people here when you start talking about that. And clearly you must deal with skeptics who come up to you and say, are you talking rubbish? Or how do you deal with it?
How do we deal with it? It's a good question. This is a minority sport, and it's an experiential journey. At the beginning, I just went for some healing, and I felt better. So I started at the very bottom rung, you could say, and somebody laid their hands on me on the different chakras, and I actually felt better. And I used to go back every week for a few weeks, and I thought, well, this is good. So what I'll do is I'll try a bit of something else. So I think for people who are skeptical, it's just a question of taking it back to the basics of do as you would be done by, the smile. And if you feel like starting to practice some meditation, do it for 1 minute a day. That's how I started when I was 30. That was over 30 years ago. I thought, well, the only thing I'm going to be able to manage is 1 minute a day before I have my breakfast. So that's what I did. And I've been meditating ever since. And the transcendental meditation practice, I personally find very calming because I have a very busy life. And so people often misunderstand meditation. They think you somehow have to empty your mind. Actually, when I meditate, it's like all the junk coming out. So I just sit and lots of things will just come out. But eventually, when all the junk has come out, I can feel a bit calmer about my day, and it keeps an emotional stability. And it's just a 1 minute start I can recommend.
So breathing, I hear, is a good part of yoga. And my dad used to do yoga. And he kept talking about the breath of life and the sun breath and various different types of breathing. And I read recently a book, I forget the name of the author, who was saying that we should be breathing more through our nose than through our mouths because it filters and it's better for the skull and a whole load of different things. But I find, and the other thing that he was saying is we breathe too much. People basically shallow breathe, and they breathe like 20 or something breaths a minute. And he was saying we need to bring it much further down so that you breathe deeper, but and longer, so that you
absolutely
6 to 7 breaths a minute is more of a healthy average. And
well,
no, go on. Sorry.
They do. The yogis do say that our life is a set number of breaths, Richard.
Oh, do they?
Yes. We're given a set amount of energy for each life. We don't know how much that is, so we just do the best we can while we're here and try and keep ourselves fit and healthy. George King did give us a set of breathing exercises, which I do every day. And they increase the life force within us the more we do it. And you will evolve quicker by doing breathing exercises. And he did tell one little story where he...
Looks like he's frozen. This is the book that the breathing exercises are in, actually.
Yes. Can I just say?
Yeah.
I'm back again.
You're back.
He was telling the class that the most disabled people are the shallowest breathers, and the most able are the deepest breathers. And one of his pupils in the class was a headmaster who went away, came back a few months ago after studying, and he said, you're dead right in what you say, because he'd been studying the pupils in the school.
Oh, how interesting.
So to increase, Wim Hof is a fantastic example. That's a great thing to be doing. The more we breathe in the universal energies around us, the more powers that we build in ourselves.
No, absolutely. No, go on.
I was just going to say, regarding the Kundalini business, when it rises up, as Catherine was saying, the center of the spine. Now, there's not something either of us have done, but we're just, because we follow George King, and we have tried to find fault with him for many years, and he passes all of our tests, and so we believe what he says. And we've met many other people who've spent their lifetime with him and devoted their lives to him and helping him. And they all say the same thing. When the Kundalini rises to the second psychic center, you become clairvoyant. He was clairvoyant. He could look at your aura and tell you your past lives. Wow. And he could tell the future and the past. These are powers, by the way, which people in the secret services normally have. And that's why they are given those jobs. So it's very interesting, isn't it?
No, absolutely fascinating, and it's mind-blowing. And of course, a lot of people will go, oh, this all sounds far-fetched, because most people's lives are very immediate, aren't they? And
absolutely.
And one of the things that I've been mentioning...
And that's the way they like to keep it.
Yes. And one of the things I've been mentioning in my videos is how things like television have dumbed us down, because we effectively hand over our lives to television, and people on a screen live them out for us, like in soap operas, and we just sit at home whilst other people have adventures and enjoy stuff, and we've sort of offset our life to those people rather than actually living it and doing things for ourselves. The other thing is taking the responsibility for ourselves and actually doing things rather than just letting everybody else do it. And if that means doing some meditation, doing some deep breathing, putting out positive messages, smiling at a neighbour, checking that they're okay, helping somebody across the road, all these sort of good things that we know just instinctively, most people, I would argue, know that's a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And just on the subject of the BBC, I heard a few years ago, and I've heard it other places since, that it was set up by the secret services as a method of controlling people. It's a bit like when the Nazis entered Austria, they made sure everybody had a radio set so they could all hear the propaganda.
Yeah,
it's very important for them to have that, going to the people. But talking about what you're saying about sending love and smiling and people. We have a practice that we do where we send out energy. It's called prayer, if you like. And we do it like this, Richard. We hold our hands up. And this is how the early Christians prayed, actually.
Oh, right.
And the church came along and told people to do it like this, to put their hands together over the heart center. And what we say is this blocks all of the energies. So by opening ourselves up, we have psychic centers in the hands and from the heart, and we visualize white light going out into the world, and we have a set of 12 blessings that we use. And anybody's welcome to tune in to the Aetherius Society, who have services most nights of the week and at weekends, and learn how they do it. It's a half-hour service, and you do 12 blessings, and they're beautiful things, and they are all very positive in helping our world and creating good karma.
So to sort of recap where we've gone, then there are dark forces that have been working against us and are continuing, and it seems to be ramped up quite a bit at the moment. And if you think of all the things that the policies that the government seem to be thrusting out, it does seem as if the government is no longer that benevolent, kind sort of object that we've set up to serve us. They seem to be serving themselves, and indeed possibly people who are influencing them in some way,
showing their true colours, Richard.
Show it exactly. And no matter at the moment, with the government, there are two parties that it seems that one will go this far and the other one will take you even further away from what most people really want or have even asked for. So, and there's a lot of confusion and people don't know what to do. So that there are these dark forces, and you're saying, actually, although there's all this confusion, although there's all this mess coming at you, yes, you can sort of go marching and have placards and write to MPs and things and try and do that sort of thing. But actually, there's a more powerful way of calming your mind, being positive, don't be frightened, and send out using prayer and meditation and those sort of things, and they actually work on a more spiritual level.
Absolutely, but we believe in doing it all, Richard.
Yes.
We're people of action. We join in. We've been to London a few times. We've been around the country talking, joining in, doing whatever we can to help. We don't sort of believe in just sitting at home contemplating our navels.
No, no. I suppose that's what I was getting at, because I suppose on some people say, oh, we don't need to bother with all that. We'll just sit there and do transcendental meditation and hopefully the stormtroopers won't come in.
Yeah, better than sort of hiding in the corner frightened.
Right, yeah. So being frightened, that fear is actually adding to their energy rather than...
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's spot on, Richard, yeah.
It does, yes. It really does add to their energy, sadly. And unfortunately, that's actually what they feed off. They feed off the energy that's generated by fear.
Right.
I must say that at the beginning of 2020, when this happened, the pandemic, whatever you like to call it, I went into a state of absolute terror. Because I don't know if it's a past life memory or I just sense this energy. And I actually went to the mountain, which is close to us in North Devon, Holston Down, to pray every day for the first 3 weeks of the lockdown. It was the only thing that I felt that I could do in the face of what I could feel was evil. I could sense it in my being. It was that bad. And the good thing is that through praying, I then felt more balanced again, and I felt like I could carry on. And it was lovely and sunny in that March. And I just took my yoga mat onto the roof and I did lots of yoga postures every day as well, just because doing the physical yoga postures actually brings mental and emotional balance too. And it's worth saying, just quickly, that the mountain that we live near, Holston Down, was actually charged up with energy through George King from another great being, and it is a center of prayer, and there are many pilgrimages there, and there's one coming up on the 25th of June if people would like to join in. And anybody's welcome, and they can come and practice these 12 blessings with us. It's open to everybody. And it's actually the 50th anniversary of a mission which George King started, which is called Operation Prayer Power. And we do this mission on Holston Down, and often there's over 100 people up there. And we all pray together with our hands up, as Stuart showed. And that's right. And it's incredibly positive and very, very powerful. We don't do it because it makes us feel good, but actually the byproduct of it is that we do feel good. And we've had a lot of ridicule in the past. I mean, George King was ridiculed throughout his lifetime, very badly. But we don't mind, because we've been doing this. We've been ridiculed. We were actually on 4 in a bed. And I think it was 2015, and our activity on 4 in a bed, because we run a bed and breakfast in Combe Martin in North Devon, was we had these different people staying with us from other bed and breakfasts. Our activity, rather than going bowling, was praying for peace on top of Holston Down.
Right.
Luckily, we had good weather. It was in May, and we had this Channel 4 film crew filming us, and we were able to show people what we do. But they thought it was hilarious. They couldn't get over it. And you can watch that episode. It's replayed recently. It comes up about 4 times a year. But we really want to get this message out. We don't mind if people laugh at us, because we've gone past that stage. We know that we're in such a dangerous situation now, and we know that we all have this immense power within us. We all have these capabilities. We feel like it's great to be on here and to be able to talk to people and to remind them about this, because actually most people know that they're a hero. Most people just have forgotten it, and they've gone into a fear place. But we are all heroes, and we all have the ability to change our world for the better.
Well, this has been a very enlightening conversation in many ways, and I'm hoping that the audience, I'll be aware that there will be many of my audience who will be coming on the journey with us. I've had people who are very religious getting in touch with me, and they're holding to their faith. In fact, you know, since I've been talking about these things, and in the sort of light-hearted sometimes, or the moderate way that I put over what I've been told and how I feel about, or questioning what's going on, a lot of people have been saying, you know, there's a spiritual awakening, or that they're holding, or they're returning to their religion, and all of this. And it does seem, and I kept thinking, wow, this is really weird, because I don't normally get those sort of emails of people telling me, and you know, it's all going to be all right, you've got to pray and you've got to do this, and I thought, oh, this is all a bit bizarre. But as the months have gone on, and I've been talking about this, the more I've been slowly coming to the same conclusion, in a way, that we're fighting this not just on a physical, here on the ground sort of thing, but there's a more spiritual, mental way of approaching it. And just being more positive makes you less frightened, gives you strength, and you're not sort of wanting to stay under the covers. You can actually go forward and be, as you say, a hero with your cape flying and your underpants on the outside of the trousers sort of thing. You know, but you can actually, it sort of gives you the strength, an inner strength to go, okay, you know, I'm prepared to face this and get on with it.
Absolutely. And what we've talked about today, Rich, is just the tip of the iceberg of the story of George King and all of the information that, you know, he worked for the solar hierarchy, basically, and all the planets are inhabited by advanced life on higher frequencies than us.
Right. Okay.
And they have been coming to this planet for millions of years, as we have been here for millions of years. The history they tell us is really correct. And they have a plan for the salvation and enlightenment of mankind, which is going ahead. But
well, that's encouraging.
That's why I said it. I mean, that's what's
it.
going ahead. There is really good things coming up in the future, but what we're faced with now is something that we can deal with.
Right.
You know,
well,
but
that's what people want to hear. I think that's what people definitely want to hear, is that they know the power is, we've got, you know, we're not just doomed to it.
Enough of us just to get on the case. And just one other thing that's very important. George King said in one of his talks about the spiritual energy crisis that had we over the centuries used this energy that we can all send out, we would never have heard of Napoleon.
Oh, really?
Or Hitler.
Oh,
or any other murderous dictator. They could not have risen to power had we been doing what the dark forces don't want us to do.
So where can people find out? So they've listened to us, and some people will be going, that sounds reasonable. Other people might be going, Richard, what have you done? Who are these people on the show?
Off the deep end, Richard.
No disrespect, mate. But the point is, I think half of it is just entertain the idea if you're skeptical.
That's right.
Just entertain, go along, because what have you got to lose if a bunch of slightly odd people are saying some strange things that you're not used to? But if you entertain the idea and open the mind a bit, you can walk away from it at any time. But there's always something to learn, is there not? So where can people go and learn more about what you do and George King and things like that?
You can look at our website. We have our Cranley House Healing website.
I'll put that in. I'll get that off you and put it in the description so people can have a look.
The official organisation, which was set up by George King, is called the Aetherius Society, which is spelled like the Greek ether, Aetherius Society. And Aetherius was his master, and it means somebody who travels through the ethers. And they are the ones who do the services that Stewart was talking about, and you can find them at aetherius.org. It's very easy to find that website, and you'll find lots of information. There's also drgeorgeking.org that you can find information at. Stewart and I are actually not members of the Aetherius Society at the moment. We were for many years, but we fully support what they're doing. They do many talks and interviews and organize pilgrimages, which is like mass prayer possibilities. There's a big pilgrimage on Holston Down near to the 23rd of July every year, which people are welcome to come to. And so that's probably, and people can be in touch with us if they would like to know more. This is our top. We feel this is top priority. And as Stewart said earlier, we're campaigners. I was a coordinator with friends of a Stop 5G campaign for the last 3 years. And I've organised many rallies myself locally to us in Devon. We've taken part in many rallies. We are practical people as well as spiritually minded people, and we think that it's important to have both, because that's what our master George King taught us. The most practical people are often the most can be the most spiritually practical people as well.
Oh, right. That's interesting. Brilliant. So we'll have a list of those places. I'll get you to email me those addresses if that's all right. And I'll put them on the link so that people can do that. This has been a very interesting conversation. I hope people have got something from it and will look into it more, because, as you say, the power is in our hands to do something about it. We have no reason really to be terribly frightened, but we just got to get on with it.
Absolutely.
Pretty much. Katherine and Stewart, thank you so much for talking to me. I hope that maybe we can get you back to talk more about the sort of the deeper side in a few months' time.
Sure.
That would be great.
It's lovely to speak to you, Richard.
I'm sure people, people will be fascinated by all of this, and I'm clearly on a bit of a spiritual journey now myself on this whole thing, so I would be interested in finding out more myself. So there we go. That's Katherine and Stewart into the metaphysical and ways that we can help get rid of these horrible dark forces and improve our lives. Yeah. Thank you both so much.
And can I just say, I'd like to sort of send a blessing to everyone who's watching this. Brilliant. And to you, Richard.
Oh, thank you so much. I will take that and look and covet it. So there we go. I will be back again with some more of these interviews. But in the meantime, thanks for watching, everybody. Don't forget to follow, like, and subscribe and all of that. But from Katherine and Katherine and Stewart, thank you so much. Bye-bye.